Hello and welcome back to more Rome 2 Total War multiplayer with Southern Wolverine, that's me, and the Lusitani. So, let me just get this started and I'll run through my army and we'll go from there. Things start out a little bit slow, so we'll have time to do this, and things will go kind of crazy at the end, I think you'll see. So my army, I have 2 Lusitani nobles as my heavy elite hitting force. And my front line is 5 veteran shield warriors. Now the Lusitani cavalry is somewhat limited, so I do have 3 of these Scutarii cavalry, and I intend to reinforce them in a cavalry fight with the Scutarii spearmen, who are actually quite good for spearmen, although they're not going to function like a heavy spear hoplite kind of unit. They're not great holding units, but they are good at damaging cavalry and assisting in cav fights. And then my skirmish element is these Balearic Slingers. It's hard to take a Iberian faction and not take Balearic Slingers. Partly because they're good, partly because they don't have any archers. So in any case, my ally has 4 Thracian nobles backed up by a couple of skirmishers. These are the garden variety Thracian skirmishers. Oh no, those are the good ones, I think. The ones with decent melee stats. Nope, those are the garden variety ones. He's also got a Thracian royal cav and 6 Thracian horsemen, which I would have mixed a couple more Thracian royal cavalry in instead of this many of these guys. Maybe a couple of them would have been fine. But in any case, that's what he's taken. And he's got another flanking force of 5 of these Thracian warriors. Alright, so we are playing against Baktria and Carthage. So you see Bactria's already sent out his 2 mercenary Scythian horse archers. These are pretty good in their price range. The Carthaginian player also he's got a mercenary Scutarii cavalry, which is the same as mine. However, his other 2 cavalry units far outclass anything I can field, which is his 2 Campanian cav. They will absolutely demolish any of my cavalry they face. In fact, pretty much anything on our team except for those Thracian royal cav would get thrashed. The Bactrian player also has 4 noble horse, so that's something we're going to have to watch out for. And I'll come back and go over their infantry in a second, but you see these Scythian horse archers are coming in. They're getting flanking shots at my Scutarii spearmen, which not that big a deal to me, but I would like to take these guys out. So you see I'm moving the Balearic Slingers to counter-attack, and he immediately recognizes what's going on. He was using these guys reasonably well, because these guys will absolutely get thrashed by Balearic Slingers. So he keeps moving and shooting, and every time my Balearic Slingers stop to shoot, they're going to move and stay out of my way. And my Scutarii cavalry is going to kind of stay behind my infantry. I'm not going to run it out here where the Carthaginian cavalry can pounce on and destroy it. So my ally here has moved out his cavalry in front of his infantry, with the intent, I guess, of boxing these cavalry into the corner, if possible, and destroying them. He was communicating by drawing red lines on the map and things like that, trying to tell me what to do. So he drew a line like here, and then he drew another line here, instead of writing a text message. I guess it's faster that way, but whatever works. So he was hoping that we could catch and destroy this cavalry. Now, we don't really have the tools to get the job done, so I was not terribly optimistic about that. But I am moving to try to keep these guys warded off so they can't get around behind us. They can't really do a lot of damage to my melee troops. Now, the Carthaginian infantry, they got 4 of these Cretan archers, and that's going to be something of a problem because my 3 Balearics can't really take that on. He's also got 2 Libyan infantry, 2 Carthaginian hoplites, late Carthaginian hoplites, and 2 African pikemen, and his African war elephant unit back here. The Bactrians also have war elephants. They've got the Indian armored elephants. These guys will be quite tough. See, they're already covered with blood. They must have run through their own guys at some point. Fortunately, they don't do damage, but, well, fortunately for them, not so much for us. And his infantry consists of a number of peltas. I think there might even be 1 more hidden. It was at least these 4, and then a line of thorax swords. We can only see 4 at the moment. That might be all he has. But in any case, the cavalry skirmish continues. So like I said, I know my cavalry will lose a fight, so I'm just keeping it back. See, here it is, hanging out behind my infantry. Keeping it back here so that if these guys try to come around and flank me, I can pin them with the cavalry and then send the spears over to help. and I've got my third spear unit kind of behind the lines in case he tries the direct approach on my sword line. I can quick pop them into shield wall, and then bring the spears up, and then bring the cavalry around behind and pin them against my swords. With that concentration of melee cav, I was a little worried he would go for direct assault, but he didn't, and they may never have intended to do that. So my ally, I think, got a bit too aggressive here, sent all his Thracian horsemen out. I don't know that he realized just how badly these guys are outclassed by everything out here, basically. Even the Scutarii cavalry, similar to what I have, are better. So by the time I even start moving my cavalry to help out, it's really too late to get much of anything done. See, these units are dying and routing quickly. He's already down to just 2 of them, and they're about to go as well. So if you'd been able to catch the horse archers, that might have been worth it, but I don't think we got much in trade out of that skirmish. Now, speaking of the horse archers, that one unit got run off a moment ago by Balearic slingers, and I believe his Thracian skirmishers got a few shots in. Now this one's about to take a 3 Balearic slinger volley. So I think you'll find that these guys don't take that kind of firepower very well. So they are quickly going to fall apart. I would like to mention we are on the, I think this is either medium or small unit settings. So a lot fewer men in units than I'm used to having. So a little bit harder to get containment because you can't deploy as wide if you just don't have as many units. So in any case, the infantry did get into that melee skirmish, that cavalry for a little while, but he pulled it back so we could reform our lines. I was a little worried he'd rush in, but he did listen, and we did manage to get relined up here. But the Bactrian player, I think he was starting to send his elephants to join that cavalry fight, because they just kind of stopped here, and that was almost certainly just an error on his part, where the cavalry fight ended before his guys could get there. They take flaming missiles, but fortunately for him, they charge forward anyway, and these Thracian nobles are going to take a good smacking from the elephants. You see quite a few of them down there. Now, they're not all dead, but still, losing 10 of those Thracian nobles, that's going to hurt. And now the javelins are out of flaming shot, trying to do some damage, and I got these Scutarii spearmen running in, and they're going to pop their cavalry counter tactics. See, I just did it. So their bonus for his cap pops up to 60. That's actually quite good, and you'll see later another good example of this working out for me. So these Indian armored elephants, they did 53 kills, not bad against noble Thracian nobles, but they're pretty much going to be gone now, and that's probably not what that guy was hoping to get out of them. So the 60 or 70 kills they ended up with may not have been worth the ridiculous 2,100 talent price tag. So that's the thing about elephants. They're very hit or miss, and I've discovered that myself lately, which is one of the reasons I've not been using them as much of late. The other reason is that they don't penetrate ranks as well as they did in earlier patches. That fix for cavalry pulling through infantry reduced their effectiveness somewhat, because even the elephants don't pull through quite as well. Now they can still bowl people over and then move through, but after the initial charge impetus, they do lose a little bit of their hitting power. So in any case, these skirmishers are kind of mobbed up, but these Bactrian peltists actually have decent protection against missiles. So you see their armor 55 and 20 shield, which isn't bad at all. Pretty good for a skirmisher. So they're actually helping screen these Cretan archers who wouldn't fare quite as well against my missile fire. So the Balearic slingers are not going to win this fight in the long run. Also, they're pretty badly outnumbered. So we kind of have to take some initiative here, get into the fight. No, excuse me, I'm something in my throat here, but clearly I don't want to charge into these pikes. Even as thinly spread as they are, they would do quite a bit of damage to my not terribly well armored veteran shield warriors. See, their armor's only 30, so they would suffer quite badly on that charge. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put the spears over here to help protect against a cavalry encirclement. And I'm just going to send in my 2 elites. They're going to go after these late Carthaginian hoplites in an attempt to wedge open this flank so I can surround the pikes and force the Cretan archers back. And you see, this is going to work quite well. These Carthaginian hoplites are basically just melting under this assault. They're not going to be able to stand up against this kind of high-powered melee unit. Meanwhile, these veteran shield warriors, I've got them running in and out, doing javelin strikes, so they're going to do quite a bit of damage there. And now I'm going to pop headhunt on the Lusitani nobles as their Libyan infantry comes in to help, and they're absolutely going to destroy them too. They'll take more losses fighting against the Libyan infantry, but they'll still destroy them. You see, I got a little caught up, popping headhunt, paying attention to that other fight, and let these guys charge a little too far. But it only cost me one guy, not that big a deal. So I'm going to keep cycle charging these, try to wear them out. Meanwhile, there's just this massive melee going on over here. I brought my cavalry in to help out just to try to keep him from getting completely flanked, but you see my allies' melee line is pretty much already disintegrated. It didn't make the dents that he was hoping for, and that's probably largely due to this cavalry coming in and messing them up. So now this is the moment I was a little concerned about. The African elephants have come into the fight. Fortunately for me, he was not able to get a clean charge. His own infantry got in the way. See, this mauled infantry unit is preventing him from getting a good charge off. I'm going to reinforce just to keep numbers in here. And now these African elephants are kind of sitting here. They're not really able to get a good charge. And then that's where they do most of their damage now. So I'm seeing that my ally has been destroyed. I'm trying to pull units over. This Scutari spearmen actually got caught by these Cretans who presumably are out of ammo. And they're actually routing. I did destroy that pike unit, which is good, so now these units are going to form up. And I'm sending these two remaining spear units through to go after the African war elephants. So they're actually... actually, one of them routed just from the presence of the elephants, unfortunately. But the other one and this veteran shield warrior unit is going to come right on in. They're going to pop their cavalry counter tactics, and they're actually going to start beating up on these elephants pretty good. Come back to that in a second. So meanwhile, out here, of course, their cavalry's destroying what's left of my Balearic slingers, who were kind of running low on ammo anyway. And honestly, I don't know how much good they're going to do anyway. Now, one thing you do see back here, two of my units of cavalry, badly beaten up though they are, have returned, and they're going to be able to contribute to the fight. And here you see that exactly what I was talking about. Those spearmen actually, since they didn't get charged and they had cavalry counter tactics, they actually destroyed and routed that last elephant. So they had a reason to celebrate, but I had to cut them off. So the Bactrian player has come in after me. The Carthage forces are starting to mass rout due to his losses that he took, since he has very little left. And now the Bactrians have gotten kind of blobbed up here, and this is one of the cardinal sins. As you see, my Lusitani nobles now come in from the flank, and my two Scutari cavalry come in from the rear. So these guys are now going to be surrounded on all sides. And this one veteran shield warrior is out here as a sacrificial charge bait. Put it in shield wall and try to ward these guys off from getting good charges on my men. So you see, now that we got some mass waverings out of these thorax swords because they're completely surrounded. And the Bactrian noble horse are actually starting to waver too from routing friendlies nearby and that. So unexpectedly, the Lusitani have pulled that one out. I fully expected that to be one of these go down fighting kind of endings, but it actually worked out. And it was even so one-sided at that one point there. I got a premature GG from one of my opponents, and I couldn't help but agree with him at the time. But I figured I'll fight it out to the death, and sure enough, it ended up working out for me. Now, if the Bactrian player had not gotten quite so blobbed up, he could have pinned my sword line, probably flanked me with cavalry, and he had a couple more units left while I was still scrambling to get into position. But in any case, the losses were quite bad. I did lose over half my army, but I did more damage than I took, which is something. Now you look at some of these units. Now remember, this is small fun, so only an 80-man unit. So 132 kills, 133 kills out of Lusitani nobles, pretty darn good. And this veteran shield war also did pretty well. It's probably one of those that got in and beat up on that pike unit. And the spears didn't do a lot of damage, but remember this one unit that had 12 kills, all 12 were elephants. So not too shabby. They actually did exactly what I needed them to do. Now this one didn't really accomplish anything, but this one got a couple elephants, and this one got nothing but elephants. And the Scutari cavalry, not a lot of damage, but 34, 39, not too bad for a 40-man unit at this size. So, and they came in for that critical rear charge when I needed it to get the mass waiver. So, no complaints whatsoever about the Scutari cavalry. And I wasn't expecting a lot out of them anyway. That's mainly a pinning force and a rear charge force, as you saw. That's exactly what happened. And the Balearic Slingers, I got some decent damage out of them, but they were there, mainly to keep enemy skirmishers shooting at them instead of at my lightly armored veteran shield warriors, who I was counting on to do the lion's share of the damage. So my allies' forces, you see why I was a little bit down on these Thracian horsemen. Yeah, 9 kills total for all 6 units. That was not cost effective, even though these 9 kills were against basically Campanian cav. Still not worth it. I mean, you have to. These units have a use, but going head to head against enemy cavalry is not it. As a supporting unit for rear charging enemy cavalry might do the job. Certainly for rear charging infantry, going after skirmishers, things like that. Great for that role. I've used them for that myself. Just not for fighting enemy cavalry head to head. So I would have probably dropped, 3 or 4 of these and got another unit or 2 of Thracian Royal Cab. Even these Thracian nobles, not doing great. Part of that is because 2 of them I think got smacked by the elephants, and then all that cavalry that was around was giving them a hard time. Yeah, his army just in general didn't accomplish all that much. A few of these Thracian nobles did some good damage before they went down against the Bactrian swords, probably. So let's go. We look at the. There you go. The Campanian cav were pretty much wrecking up on cavalry. The Cretan archers did quite a bit of damage also, and against lightly armored troops, like both of our armies for that matter, mine and the Oddrysian Kingdom's army, are both tend to be pretty lightly armored. These guys racked up quite a bit of damage, which not terribly surprising. We did manage to keep the elephants from doing too much, which is great news. And basically his infantry accomplished very little as well, because I was able to get my high quality swords where I needed them to be. And look at all this damage from the Bactrian noble horse. These guys were just thrashing Thracian infantry, as well as a number of those Thracian horse. But the Indian armored elephants, as I said before, didn't really pay off. Neither did these Scythian horse archers. But 30 damage between 2 units, not really worth it. The Peltis actually, now that I'm looking at it, did some decent damage. And the Thorax swordsman. So all this stuff kind of did its job. This did really well. These 3 units, meh, not super exciting. But in any case, that's about all I have to say about this battle. I'd like to thank Han Napoleon for playing as my ally, and a good game to our opponents, None, and Legendary Swords Master. Played a couple games against these guys in a row, so I have one other one recorded, or one other one saved, which I might do a recording on, depending on what the schedule looks like coming up. So you might see them again. These guys were pretty good opponents. So in any case, I guess lessons here: fight to the last, and make sure you pick units that make sense. Use units for what they're intended for. So, in any case, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, please go ahead and hit the like button below the video. Comment, subscribe, etc. But for now, well, just have a good day.